I'm here. It was difficult to turn on my video, but.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Sirnanda. I'm a student of University of the West, and I'm reading for my PhD. Today, my topic is the Bodhi Pūjā, the practice of worshipping the Bodhi tree in Sri Lanka. Introduction. Before the theism emerged in the society, it is said that people used to worship natural energies and natural substances such as sun, moon, clouds, wind, thundering, lightning, and mountains, large trees, rocks, as gods or the divine energies that created and controlled the humans. By the time the concept of theism emerged in human world, the power of creating the living beings and controlling them were attributed to the creative God or the omniscient one. But in some civilizations, worshipping the nature did not come to an end because they were mixed with the concept of a creative God. Even though worshipping a tree or mountain could be considered as a primitive religious practice, it is alive in some cultures, still alive in some cultures, especially those are connected with the Indian civilization. Worshipping the Bodhi tree is one of such cult or ritual, which is practiced by Sri Lankan Buddhists. In this paper, is about to observe the reasons why Bodhi Pūjā or worshipping the Bodhi tree is much famous in Sri Lankan culture. Then let's move on to the meaning of the Bodhi. Ficus religiosa is the scientific name of the Bodhi tree, and in Sanskrit it is called Ashwatha. In Pali it is called Asatta, people or fig tree in English. It is known as Bodhi tree after the Siddhartha Gautama enlightened under that tree. Since the Buddh root means to awaken or to understand or awaken the wisdom, the tree that the Buddha sat under while he was enlightening were called Bodhi tree. Professor Lili de Silva in his paper named The Cult of the Bodhi Tree has given a deep investigation of the history of the Ashwatha tree and the honor it deserved even pre-Buddhist era. As he mentioned, Ashwatha was worshipped as a cult object in Harappan civilization. One example is that in the funeral pottery unearthed from Harappan cemeteries, Ashwatha leaf is a predominant motif among other such as soul orbs, stars, peacocks, and gods. You can see here the motif with the Ashwatha leaves. It is believed that Pipal tree has closely connected to Indus Valley beliefs and ideas of eschatology. Rigveda, Atharvanveda, Satapatha Brahmana, Upanishad, Bhagavad Gita, Mahabharata also mention about the Ashwatha as a powerful, great tree which has a strong roots and ability to survive even suppressing other trees. Then let's see the origin of the Bodhi tree. According to the commentaries of the Jataka, Jataka means the previous lives of the Buddha, the Theravāda and Buddha Vansa mentioned that there were 7 objects that emerged with the Prince Siddhartha. The Mahabodhi tree, the great Bodhi that he sat under when he was attaining enlightenment is one of them. The same Jataka commentary mentions that after the enlightenment, the Buddha paid his gratification and homage to the Bodhi tree by looking at it with unblinking gaze for 7 days. Also, Jataka commentary mentions that Venerable Ananda has collected seeds from the Mahabodhi and planted them at the Jetavana monastery premises for people to worship when the Buddha is in sojourns elsewhere. This is the first idea that we can find from the Pali scriptures that the Mahabodhi was considered as the living Buddha. Since his Bodhi tree was planted by the request of Venerable Ananda, it came to be known as Ananda Bodhi, which is still extant in India in Shravasti. Another main reason that the worshipping cult of the Bodhi tree became more famous, that Mahaparinibbana Sutta, which contains about the passing away of the Buddha, it mentions that there are 4 places that people could see and worship, recollecting the Buddha, such as the place of the birth, the place of the enlightenment, and the place where the inaugural Dhamma sermon was held, and the place where the Buddha passed away. This is the main reason that the Buddhists all over the world visit India to see and worship those places where the Buddha associated. Among them, the Bodhi tree is very famous, since it is the place that the Buddha defeated defilements and the forces of the Mara, defeated the forces of the Mara and attained the enlightenment. Then let's see about the arrival of the Bodhi tree in Sri Lanka. After the demise of the Buddha, the Mahabodhi has been venerated and protected by the kings and patronage people of Buddhism. According to the Chronicle of Mahabodhivansa, the great Ashoka Emperor sent his own son, Venerable Arhant Mahinda, to Sri Lanka in 306 BCE for propagating the Buddhism. King Devanampiyatissa was the king of Sri Lanka at that time. Few years later, by the request of Arhant Mahinda and King Devanampiyatissa, Emperor Ashoka sent his daughter Bhikkhuni Sangamita for establishing the Bhikkhuni ordination, female monastic ordination in Sri Lanka. Also, Ashoka prepared the right branch of the Mahabodhi, placing it in a golden vessel to plant and establish in Sri Lanka. After it was planted in Mahavihara monastery premises in Anuradhapura, the capital of Sri Lanka at that time, the Bodhi was known as Sri Mahabodhi. This is the image that printed in a famous monastery, famous vihar in Sri Lanka, that Sangamita is bringing the Sri Mahabodhi to Sri Lanka. And this is the Sri Mahabodhi in Anuradhapura. It is more than 2,500 years old. Then let's see the various worships for the Bodhi tree. Bodhi Pūjā, worship of the Bodhi, is a famous ritual in Sri Lankan Buddhist society. When considering the history of the cult of Bodhi, the commentary of Kalinga Bodhi Jataka contains much details about how Emperor Ashoka performed that practice. According to that, bathing the tree in scented water, offering flowers, lighting lamps, hanging garlands, hoisting flags and banners, burning incense, placing vases of plenty, construction of railings, platforms and entrances, sparkling silvery or golden sand, playing music, circumambulation, exclamation of pious joy, saying sadhu, sadhu, paying homage with clasped hands, and construction of pillars. When it's come to the Sri Lankan Bodhi Pūjā, Sri Lankans have added offering drinks, medicine, and milk rice to the Bodhi tree. And in Sri Lanka, each temple has a Bodhi tree protected with a wall and a sand compound around it. Now, let's move on to what are the reasons for worshipping the Bodhi tree. According to the practitioners, the meaning of worshipping the Bodhi tree and performing pujas have adverse benefits. They include assurance, blessings, and achievements of aspirations. As an example, when somebody is sick, having planetary influence, needs blessing for interview or examination, and so forth, they worship and perform a Bodhi Pūjā. On the other hand, some people perform the Bodhi Pūjā with insightful meanings, such as awakening the wisdom, concentrating the mind, and meditation, venerating the great wisdom of the Buddha. As an example, some people prefer to observe precepts and meditate under the shade of the Bodhi tree, since it is peaceful and calm. And they believe that the Bodhi tree's rays and shade helps them to concentrate mind and awaken the wisdom. Then I'm trying to find out what are the reasons and why Sri Lankan Buddhists are more engaged in worshipping Bodhi tree. Even though all Buddhists around the world respect and venerate the Bodhi tree, practicing of the Bodhi Pūjā in Sri Lankan society is remarkable. As I mentioned earlier, every temple in Sri Lanka has a Bodhi tree, as it is one of the three main worshipping places in the temple. Even though such all Bodhi trees are not saplings of the Sri Mahabodhi at Anuradhapura or saplings of Mahabodhi in India, so still people concern all these Bodhi trees as living Buddha. If we consider the reason why Sri Lankan Buddhists are more interested in Bodhi Pūjā, I find that one reason is that Sri Mahabodhi, which was inherited from India, was not just a branch of the Bodhi tree. It was the culture they received. As the Chronicle Bodhivansha mentions, the Emperor Ashoka has sent a number of attendants with their families to protect the Bodhi tree. They belong to 18 different careers, such as cleaning the Bodhi tree and premises, to protect it, to make puja, to cultivate crops for making offerings to the Bodhi tree, and so on. Therefore, after arriving the Sri Mahabodhi, it became a part of the Sri Lankan main culture. Even today, there are a lot of surnames connected with such ancient families, such as Bodhinaya, Bodhinayaka, Bodhivansa, Bodhisiha, Bodhisena, Bodhipala, Bodhidharma, Bodhivardhana, and so forth. The second reason I find that before the Buddhism arrives in Sri Lanka, worshipping the big trees was a cult in some groups, in some tribes. Once the Buddhism was introduced to introduce worshipping the Bodhi tree instead of the big other trees, people embraced it with great faith to the Buddha. After that, guardian deities concept was also attributed to the Bodhi tree. It is said that Kalu Devata Bandara is the guardian deity who protects the Sri Mahabodhi. The next reason I find that since the origin of the Pali commentaries happened in Sri Lanka, the confidence of the power of the Bodhi tree is emphasized by the commentaries were embraced by the Sri Lankan Buddhists. Therefore, Sri Lankan Buddhists believe that Bodhi tree is a living Buddha. The conclusion, according to the discussion, it is clear that pipal, people, fig, or Ashwatha tree has been a venerated tree from very ancient time. Buddhists started to worship it after the Buddha attained the enlightenment under the Bodhi tree. The rituals of the Bodhi tree is considered as a part of the popular Buddhism. Among other Theravāda Buddhist countries, Sri Lankan Buddhists are more engaged with Bodhi Pūjā and rituals with the Bodhi. Even they are living in the Western countries, Europe, or any other place in the world. Each Sri Lankan temple has at least a small Bodhi tree to represent the living Buddha. It shows how deeply their mind connected with the Bodhi. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sirnanda. Excellent presentation. We appreciate it. And now over to Jamie for the next presentation.
Hopefully I have a computer that has a mind of its own, so hopefully we won't have any problems here. Share my screen. Okay, let me just get the little thing out of the way. Sorry, everybody's face is on my. I'm sorry.
You're doing well. We can see your presentation, Jamie.
I know. I just lost it now. Shoot, I am so sorry. I had it and it's just gone.
We've got it. We've got it. We've got it.
I don't though. Oh well, I have it here, so I'm not sure if this is. Okay. I just can't get. I have the little thing blocking me at the top. You know, I'm trying to minimize it, but it's not doing it. Shoot, I'm so sorry, and we're running late too.
Can you maybe use the left arrow, right arrow buttons to move between the slides, or?
Well, you know, we have that has the chat and the bottom thing,
Yeah.
Panel share. It's popped at the top, and then below it are, you know, like all the participants. And I'm trying to get those. Oh, I got one of them out of the way. I don't know why my top bar is up there. Oh shoot, I can't make it.
Maybe try doing escape. Press the escape button and you may see the other windows.
Shoot, I'm afraid I'll get myself. Is this Alex?
Yeah.
Hi, Alex. We missed you.
Hey, I'm on site here at Loyola Marymount.
Excellent.
yeah.
Okay, let me. Should I just? I just can't see part of my screen.
He's an expert. Lane, the speaker is Stark. Jamie, the next presenter.
Yeah.
She went to present mode and she can't see her slides.
Oh,
We can see him.
Well, I can see him, but what happened is, you know, the bottom bar that says participants, chat, new share. It's at the top of my screen and it's blocking part of my screen. And I can't see how to minimize it. I can move it around, but it won't go away.
Yeah. Sometimes you want to be, is it that you want to be able to click next slide or to escape out of it?
I want to be able to see my slides and not have the bar blocking part of them.
Yeah. Why don't we go to, okay. So the speaker volume. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Oh, it looks like, so in the bottom right hand, either in presenter mode, you can click out of presenter mode. And the bottom right, it's like a little square with a stand, or all the way to the right, a little further. I see your mouse. Perfect. One more.
Can you see my thing on the top?
No, I can't see on the top, but I see on the bottom your mouse and it says reading view. Maybe try clicking reading view.
Okay, reading view, that's what I have, but it's still staying there. Should I just try?
On me too.
Should I just try, because I don't want to, like, you know, waste the time of people. I might be able to read it, but I don't
I
know.
can start if you want me to. I can start if you want me to.
Well, I'll just go ahead because I don't know if we'll fix this. I don't want to get everything confused. So is that all right? Does that work out? So I apologize if I can't read part of it, but you guys can see it at least.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, sorry. Good morning, everybody, all Sasa scholars and Bantes. So in the Buddhist group, the ontological voidness of Śūnyatā and the dark matter of quantum physics, while seemingly empty, are in actuality fertile cosmic wombs where creation exists in potentiality and reality. All that is known, unknown, and yet to be known finds its source in the emptiness and binding unity of Śūnyatā. As the ontological voidness that constitutes ultimate reality, it exceeds the limitations of measurement, form, time, space, and dimension. Nothing recognizable or identifiable exists at the absolute core of reality. Śūnyatā wondrously transforms emptiness into infinite fields of reality. Dark matter is an invisible form of matter that makes up most of the universe's mass and creates its underlying structure. Dark matter is not reactant to light or other electromagnetic radiation, so its existence is inferred from gravitational effects, radiation, and the mass of orbital velocities calculated between related luminous bodies. So they're measuring distance between stars, planets, dust. And here's how they actually have to figure it, because it's hypothetical. Dark matter demonstrates how mass cannot always be seen and empty space is not empty. Everything in existence and pre-existence is a form of vibrating energy in both observable and imperceivable realities. Physical atoms are made up of vortices of energy that are constantly spinning and vibrating, each one radiating its own unique energy signature. Solid mass and one-dimensional point particles do not exist in string theory or quantum physics. Instead of solid mass, there are stretched points or strings that vibrate and resonate at a multitude of frequencies. String theory postulates that observed particles only give the illusion of solid mass because of their high rate of vibration and resonance. As resonant frequency changes, form changes from conglomerates of subatomic particles to tiny vibrating loops with particles that split, combine, and absorb back into one another. Everything owes its existence to sound. Absolutely. Form perpetually generates sound and emits specific shape-generated frequency and energy patterns. The entire universe perpetually vibrates with creative sound. Consciousness transforms energy. Dr. Masaru Emoto was a pioneering scientist who demonstrated that words, thoughts, ideas, emotions, sound, intentions, awareness, and even images impact and transform the physical realm. His work provides evidence through microscopic ice crystals that consciousness and human vibrational energy transform molecular structures and form. So he's freezing water and doing these things to them, and here you get different crystals. Here's an example, a little short video.
In this experiment, Dr. Emoto's researchers used a glass of Tokyo tap water, which seems to be unable to form crystals, and performed a test. Participants placed the glass in the center of their circle and sent gratitude to the water. Studying the water under the microscope, they started to see a crystal formation. Increased magnification showed the symmetry of the crystal, revealing how the tap water was transformed by the gratitude sent by the group. The crystal continued to grow, expressing the energies received. The tap water from Tokyo finally produced a beautiful crystal.
It was interesting to see children so completely astonished after they witnessed the difference in Tokyo tap water, before and after they said the prayer. Their mothers were kind of skeptical before this experiment. But afterwards, they said, we really have to believe it.
Well, you know, if the mothers believe it, that it has to be true.
In this experiment, Dr.
Here we go. Okay, here's another one, a quick one. Showing how words, what different words have created. Now here's some, you can see all the different words and all the different forms that they've taken. Just from speaking the words over the water, the water molecules change. Creation. So how does nothingness become something? Empty space is not empty, but full of temporary virtual particles that perpetually come in and out of reality. When Antipada transforms from the passive and undifferentiated into the active and differentiated Utpada, the genesis of perceivable universes sets into motion the materialization of creation. When Śūnyatā shifts, the genesis of perceivable universes set into motion the materialization of the illusory realities of truth, form, time, space, dimension, planes of consciousness, and worlds of perpetual motion. Because everything is transitory, there will always be an arising and falling of passive states shifting into active states for that which is not actually manifest. Creation and pre-existence, existence and non-existence is a form of pulsating energy that exists as electromagnetic vibrations and fields of sound. Particles and their virtual dual particle realities spontaneously appear out of and disappear into observable nothingness. More space comes into existence because empty space possesses its own creative energy force and consciousness. Quantum physics actually predicts 10 to the 500th power versions of space-time, each with their own laws of physics. So 10,500 computes as infinity. So that's how many worlds and laws of physics science has predicted exist. And all form generates sound, which emits unique shape, form, frequency, and energy patterns, which can be visualized by somatics. These are different, there's Nalini plates, and all these are sand on metal, and they create these images. Like the water crystals had images, somatics also creates images. So sound made visible is called somatics. It's a type of modal vibrational wave phenomena. And sound generates dynamic sacred geometrical patterns, which change in accordance with frequency amplification. So give you a nice visual of sound.
The film you are about to see has no characters. If you spare a little of your imagination, it's a film to describe to you the effect of cymatic frequencies on matter.
So there we have it.
Thank you, Jamie. Thanks for the excellent presentation. That was wonderful. We appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm having problems again with my screen. You can see. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I think
I'm trying to
you
leave.
can stop sharing. You're done, right?
I can't even find that. Oh, and by the way, too, I forgot to mention I'm a PhD student at University of the West. Maybe I shouldn't say that after I'm having these problems, but finishing my coursework. So, okay, I'm sorry. So unshare screen.
Thanks, Jamie. Thanks again. Appreciate it.
Thank
Yeah. And the next speaker will be Nalini
Yes.
Rao from Soka University. So Nalini, if you can try presenting your screen.
I'm trying.
Yeah, I'm going to share my screen.
Yes.
Can you all hear me?
I can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to put it for slideshow.
Yeah, go to present mode.
It says try closing some. This is a very different presentation, and that was a wonderful one. And I have so many questions for her, although I'm not in the science area, but as an art historian, probably that we will reserve all questions for the end. Okay, so my topic is on the role of trade, royalty, and ideology in the spread of Buddhism in Deccan India. Okay. Ancient Indian Buddhist art is a growing field, and as we encounter new excavations, there is a need of reinterpreting and a need for a great to initiate a discussion on early Buddhism in India. The recent archaeological excavations in Kanaganhalli, that is Śūnyatā in Deccan, South India, over here that you see, has yielded a wealth of information and initiated this discussion of a large Buddhist center between 1st century CE and 3rd centuries CE. The focus of my paper is based on trade, royal patronage, and Buddhist ideology, and the sources include archaeological, epigraphical, and artistic evidences. Archaeological excavations conducted in 1991 till 1999 by Dr. K.P. Punacha from the Archaeological Survey of India revealed the existence of a massive Mahastupa as large as that in Sanchi, built during the Hinayana phase of Buddhism in 1st century BC, that was elaborated and embellished 4 times till the Mauryan Shatavahana period. Ultimately, it was destroyed by an earthquake later. The remains have yielded a lot of sculptures and archaeological monasteries over here. But before that, let me show you where exactly Kanaganhalli is situated. It is situated in what is known as the Chitrapura Taluk in Gulbarga district on the river Bhima, which is a tributary of river Krishna in the Deccan, okay, and in the state of Karnataka, where we find innumerable Buddhist establishments and dwellings for rainy season. At Kanaganhalli, the river here, Bhima, takes a turn to the north, called as Uttaravahana, and meanders forming a sheltered area nearby called Śūnyatā. So Kanaganhalli, which is close by, is also known as Śūnyatā. And at Śūnyatā, there is a big Hindu temple for the goddess called Chandralamba, who is a combination of Durga, Saraswati, and Lakshmi. The material remains consist of a Mahastupa as well as 70 images of the Buddha that are huge. Railings, platforms, pillars, as well as Jataka stories, aniconic symbols, royal portraits, hundreds of inscriptions, all preserved in a wonderful way And the artistic excellence of these Buddhist works is unimaginable. This is a reconstructed stupa, which is similar to the one in Amravati in design. It is oriented north to south axis, consisting of a hemispherical dome, about 26 meters in diameter and 3 meters in height. It is made of brick and limestone and is filled with mud, mortar, pebbles, limestone chips, veneered limestone relief slabs. Originally, it consisted of an upper but non-functional circumambulatory passage. The stupa is enclosed by a railing or vedikam, which is pierced with 4 entrances in north, south, east, and west, with a moonstone or chandrashila, which is rare at the entrances. As at Amravati, it consists of these ayaka platforms and pillars abutting the lower drum at cardinal directions opposite to the entrances. But it is very different from the Amravati one, as there are huge Buddhist sculptures that are placed here near the ayaka platforms. Nearby are the remains of monasteries and numerous other images that have been found. Oh, I'm going to do this. I want to go to the next one. Okay. If you look at the whole area, we find that Kanaganalli and Sannati are twin villages, while nearby is a massive fortification called Ranamandala or battlefield. Soka is said to have defeated the Shatavahanas in this battlefield. So here are rock edicts as well as separate edicts found at Chandralamba goddess temple, which refers to the Khalatika, which was the hill where Ashoka donated caves to the Ajivikas. In addition, there is a wonderful sculpture of Ashoka, which is so rare to find anywhere else. The only sculpture of Ashoka that we find is on the Sanchi railing, where Ashoka appears to be going to worship the Bodhi tree. So here is Ashoka with his wife. There's also an inscription by him. In addition, there is also 10 royal portraits of Shatavahana rulers. These are labeled with inscriptions. For example, on the left, we see Chimukha Shatavahana, while on the right is Sri Pulamavi Shatavahana. We also have that of the great ruler, Gautami Putra Sri Yagna Shatakarni, on an umbrella shaft. We have a dated inscription of Vasishta Putra Sri Shatakarni on the cornice. Interestingly, here is a representation of Ramagrama Stupa, and labeled by the inscriptions that mentions that the stupa was built over 1/8 portion of the relics at Ramagrama. Now, these, the royal patrons who donated, especially the Shatavahanas, had a very important role to play. Royal patronage, as we all know, was called Dharmadana in the Buddhist period. Dana defined religious identity. Secondly, it provided status as the gift remained permanently on the stupa. It provided the donor with an upward mobility, as here we see a lot of community patronage as well. And lastly, it established a relation between the king and the Sangha and the people. One of the reasons that Ashoka was interested in Kanagalli was that it was a center of Kanakamuni, who was a Manushi Buddha. The word Kanaganahalli literally refers village of Kanaka. Ashoka is said to have enlarged the stupa of the Buddha Konakamana to twice its original size in his regnal year, 14th regnal year. And when he revisited the site, he erected an inscribed pillar specifically in honor of Bhagavato Konigamena, the former Buddha. In fact, the term Lord Kanakamuni appears on the inscriptions found here. There is also an invocation to him, and he is also depicted in the form of a totemic tree. In addition, 8 Manushi Buddhas are represented in the circumambulatory passage, along with an exuberance of depiction of Naga Muchlinda. In addition, the town of Sanati was known to the Buddhists as Shantimati. It was the abode of the tutelary yaksha, while Buddha himself is referred to as Shantatman, one possessing of tranquility of mind. Vidubha, who actually forgave Shakyas after he listened to the Buddha. But the Shatavahanas recognized the greatness of Ashoka, although Ashoka had defeated the Shatavahanas at the Ranamandala, which is dotted with a lot of stupas. Around this Ranamandala, there are monasteries such as Anegutti, Benagutti, Hasaragundi, and a brick stupa. But yet, the Shatavahanas patronized Buddhism, as we know, and the Shatavahana rulers acknowledged Ashoka as he was a great, he was called Dharma Ashoka. And not only that, Dharma was such an important aspect even to the Shatavahanas as well. Probably, we think that the Shatavahana rulers who acknowledged Ashoka were related through a marriage alliance to the Mauryas. However, another very important reason for the penetration of Buddhism or Buddhist Sangha in the Deccan, both by Ashoka as well as the Shatavahanas, was that it lay on the important trade route between north, south, east, and west. During the Shatavahana period, after the discovery of the monsoon in 1st and 2nd century CE, trade contacts reached unprecedented heights. Kanaganhalli was establishment on the southern route called Dakshina Patha route that we see here straight going towards Sri Lanka ultimately, that ran north to south and continued westwards to Brahmagiri to over here, as well as Bhruvakacha, as well as to Amravati on Dhanyaketa, as well as connected to the western Indian sites of Te as well. Thus, Kanaganhalli was well connected by trans-regional network of interconnected trade routes. So here we see the connection of the Ganga Doab Valley to the west coast via the Deccan Plateau. Furthermore, the Raichur Doab over here and its peripheral zones was a significant corridor of communication between the Deccan and the south for the hinterlands. Ashoka was aware of this, as we find that in his Rock Edict 13. He refers to the people of the Deccan and far south as his subjects, whom he controlled from a golden hill called Suvarnagiri. Kautilya too refers to the Dakshina Patha southern route for the sake of diamonds and gold mines, pearls and conch. In a statement, it is proved, all this is proved by the mines that we find at Hatti in Raichur district, Maski in Kurnool district, and the rich deposits found between the Krishna and Tungabhadra rivers of iron ore. The west coast was further reached, iron and cotton further reached the west coast, and ultimately it went overseas. Furthermore, with the formation of 16 Mahajanapadas that we know are republics, trade contacts throughout India were channelized. Among the 16 Mahajanapadas was the Asmaka Janapada, which is the Kanaganhalli Sannati area. Hence, there are numerous is images of Nagas, where Nagas were probably the local inhabitants of this Asmaka territory. And Chinmukha Shatavahana is said to have befriended the Nagas. If you look at the sculptural art at Gaidhani, it represents scenes related to travel on land routes with the decorated chariots, horses, elephants, variety of palanquins, as well as camels. Thus, Kanaganhalli and Sannati became a flourishing nodal center at the crossroads of trade routes. In addition, Kanaganhalli had a barter currency system and is proved by the profuse use of currency, which is attested by the findings of 500 silver punch-marked coins at Koppal in Raichur district, and the existence as well of Roman coins. In addition are the large number of die-struck and lead-struck coins of the kings of Shatavahanas. Sundara Shatakarna had conquered the port of Bhrugukacha in the west coast from the Kshatrapas, who used to divert the ships of Greek traders affecting the trade in the Shatavahanas. Thus, Kanaganhalli area was a prosperous area where Buddhist monasteries and ideology flourished. This is substantiated by the stupas, the 70 Buddha images, footprints, Jataka stories, as well as Dharma chakras. Okay, let me go. Now, if we look at the Dharma chakras, it is so interesting to find, that the Dharma was a political tool. And the Dharma was one of the ways for them to propagate and spread Buddhism as well. And these stupas were known as Dharma Rajikas as well. Thus we know, went off. Can you see the, sorry, something went off with the, thus the town of Kanaganhalli and Sannati was a fully evolved center with a large Buddhist organization, guilds of artists, artisans, sreshtis, shartavahas, and a pattern of social organization, along with theaters, images, and symbols. It was a celebrative center of active ritual worship of the Buddha, and with all his aniconic symbols of footprints and Bodhi tree. Thus, archaeological evidences have provided us with a multidisciplinary understanding of religious, political, and economic forces for the formation and continued existence of Kanaganhalli as a major center of early Buddhism in the south, where trade, royal patronage sustained Buddhist ideology for a long time. Okay, and we find this even up till the 11th centuries, where Buddhism was taught in Hindu monasteries as well. And we have 4 monasteries, the one for the Buddha, and one for Shiva, one for Vishnu, and one for the Jain. So here, with my research is also on Hindu monasteries as well as Buddhist monasteries. And hence, as an archaeologist and art historian, I try to understand and integrate new archaeological evidences into integral understanding of history, religion, politics, and sociology. And always say there is no history without religion and no religion without history. With this, I think my time is up, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Nalini, for your excellent presentation.
Stop.
Very good. And the next speaker is Vaishali. from the University of the West. Vaishali, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Great. Can you start sharing?
Sure. Sure. I would be. I just have a talk to give. Yeah. So I would not be sharing any information. Yeah.
Please get started. I'll get out of your way.
All right. Thank you so much. And I'm sorry that I joined late because we were not able to log in. So yeah, so finally we could. I'm so happy about that. So the title of my paper, what you can see that which is given in the brochure, is Understanding the Concept of Khanti, Patience in the Path Towards Liberation, with reference to some of the foremost disciples of the Buddha. But here I have just a little bit changed the topic to some of the disciples of the Buddha as seen in the Theravāda Pāli text. And here, majorly, for the major portion of my research in this paper is related to the Majjhima Nikaya, the middle and discourses of the Buddha. So the Pali word khanti, that is, patience, what I have equated it to, is like, in English, we do not have a specific single word which can represent the meaning of khanti, the Pali word. So, but, like in multiple ways, it can be interpreted in English, like patience, forbearance, calm acceptance, and sometimes also as forgiveness and endurance. Yet this does not provide a comprehensive meaning. For easy communication and convenience, we use the English word Pali to for the Pali khanti as patience in English to represent in this paper. So the statement goes that this paper attempts to study the concept of khanti through the suttas from the Theravāda Pāli text, that's Majjhima Nikaya, like major portion of it from Majjhima Nikaya. And one of the examples I've also picked up from Digha Nikaya. Now the hypothesis is, although khanti is one of the 10 perfections, there are the noble deeds or wholesome qualities to be perfected by a bodhisattva. And although the quality of patience is appreciated by the Buddha as a foremost austerity, we cannot find many suttas in the Pali texts that teach the specific practice of khanti. This paper attempts to explore the subtle concept of khanti and its significance as a liberative path with reference to some of the Buddha's disciples. So this paper is initiated with an endeavor to take a closer look at the subtle quality of khanti, not highlighted as prominently as like the other virtues in the Pali texts. In the Theravādan school of Buddhism, although there are multiple meanings of khanti as patience, forbearance, forgiveness, willing to, acceptance, and so on, we will, however, refer to patience as one word English translation for ease of communication in this paper. The Dhammapad verse 184 states, Khanti paramang tapotitikha nibbanang paramang vadanti buddha. Foremost Arhant disciples of the Buddha display innumerable acts of khanti in their endeavor in the Buddha Sasana. Sariputta Thera, Mahamoglana Thera, Punna Thera are but just few of them. Just like the Bodhisattva in previous lives endured 4 innumerables, asankhya, and 100,000 eons, kappas, to fulfill the perfection of noble deeds, that's parami, so did the foremost disciples of the Buddha endure 100,000 asankhya and 100,000 kappa to fulfill their parami essential in the attainment to the position of foremost disciples in the Samma Sambuddha's dispensation, the Buddha Sasana. The parami illustrated by Jatak Katha is a doctrine that plays no part or has very little significance in the Nikayas that profess the path of enlightenment. Is exactly what I argue in this paper. So in Moorish Walls in the Digha Nikaya mentions that sometimes there is doubt about the original form of a word. Thus in Pali Canon, Gautama, before his enlightenment, is referred to as the Bodhisattva, a term better known with some doctrinal development in the Sanskrit form of Bodhisattva, enlightenment being. But it has been suggested that the element satta in Pali here stands not for sattva, being, but for sakta, intent on. In this case, Bodhisattva would mean one intent on enlightenment. On philological grounds alone, at least, we cannot be sure which explanation is right. Therefore, this paper attempts to dig into the corpus of the Nikayas to find the explanation of the doctrinal term khanti. The Buddha in the Digha Nikaya proclaimed the first noble truth that birth itself is suffering, jatipi dukkha. Then one may, so to say, think about willingness to endure infinitesimal births in fulfillment of the parami, as stated in the Jatak Katha, is in itself an act of khanti, khanti parami. There are multiple meanings of khanti. Few of the references of khanti found in the Nikayas and listed in the dictionary are, as I have referred to the Sutta Central website here for that, and they mention titikha sankhata khanti in the Dhammapada. Mettata anu, this is in combination with forbearance. Khanti with forbearance. Mettata anudayata, that this is in combination with loving kindness. Khanti cha sovachasata. Khanti, that is patience in combination with gentle speech. Khantiya upasamen upeta. Patience in combination with calm. And metta, forbearing love, in the phrase khanti metta anudaya sampanna, one whose character is compassion and loving forbearance. So racha, gentleness and forbearance. Sunya, void of khanti. Khanti bala, the force of forbearance, one whose strength is patience. Adutto yo titikkati khanti balang balanikang tang ahang brumi brahmanang. In the Dhammapada. In the Majjhima Nikaya, the Buddha defines khanti as one who patiently puts up with cold and heat, hunger and thirst, sun and wind, attack of gnats and mosquitoes, bites of serpents, unpleasant talk, physical pain, etc., is said to be a patient person. A meditator in the face of difficulties should not abandon the practice of study of Dhamma, listening to the Dhamma and preaching the Dhamma, nor abandon the meditative practice in the face of difficulties. Neither should one resort to unwholesome means to obtain them. For example, destroying insects, for that would amount to negating the practice of perfection of khanti. A meditator not obtaining sufficient food and drink should not become discouraged through such a drawback and abandon the responsibility one has undertaken. This dual avoidance constitutes the practice of patience regarding hunger and thirst, is mentioned by Venerable Ray Rukane in the Perfection, the Parami. In this paper, an attempt is also made to understand khanti as a liberative path. The events and narratives in the Tipitaka Pali texts, especially the Nikayas, suttas, serve to provide a rich source of information to understand this doctrinal concept of khanti. There is no sutta directly admonishing the practice of khanti, what we find in the Majjhima Nikaya suttas and in the other Nikayas. The Buddha's teaching method of abstaining from, as in the Pancha Sikkhapada, that's the Panchasila also that we call, training in the abstinence from killing, stealing, bodily misconduct, lying, consuming intoxicants. All this is analogous and can be found in teaching the doctrine of khanti. This can be stated as abstaining from vyapada or dosa chitta. Dosa chitta here would mean harm towards other beings. And when we look at Abhidhamma Sangatha texts, so dosa chitta and chetasika we can find there, and it is this opposite of dosa, that is adosa chetasika, also equated to metta or loving kindness. Now, first consideration that we have here is of the Kosambiya Sutta in Majjhima Nikaya. During the period when the bhikkhus at Kosambi were divided by the dispute, the Buddha taught them the 6 qualities that create love and respect and conduce to unity. The Buddha then further explained 7 extraordinary knowledges possessed by a noble disciple who realizes the fruit of stream entry. So, from the Pali text we have here, Tena cheva ayyamayang sanyapetha, nacha sanyating upetha, nacha ayyamayang nijjapetha, nacha nijjating upetha, taihi tumhakang, moga purisa bhavisati digharatang ahitaya dukkhayati. Bhikkhu Bodhi translates, thus, what can you possibly know? What can you see? That you take to quarreling and brawling deep in disputes, stabbing each other with verbal daggers, that you can neither convince each other nor be convinced by others, that you can neither persuade each other nor be persuaded by others. Misguided men, that will lead to your harm and suffering for a long time. While in a dispute, the 5 obsessions flooding the mind are described as the person is obsessed, so is the person's mind is obsessed with sensual lust, that's kam raga, ill will, vyapada, sloth and torpor, thina middha, restlessness and remorse, udacha kukacha, and doubt, vichikiccha. These are the 5 obsessions. Because of these 5 obsessions, the Buddha says that the mind is flooded and therefore one engages into dispute and discord. The digital Pali reader in their dictionary for vivada or dispute lists 6 roots of contentions. What are these 6 types of vivada or contentions? These 6 vivada roots are kodha, makha, issa, satheya, papichata, sanditti, paramasa. That means they are translated in English as anger, selfishness, envy, fraudulence, evil intention, worldliness. So all these are included in the worldly factors. In the Samagama Sutta, Majjhima Nikaya, again, there is another set. These 6 sets are mentioned in the similar way. And in Anguttara Nikaya, another list of 10 are mentioned. The Buddha provides a solution to disputes in this sutta, in the Samagama Sutta. And Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi and in the book, in the Majjhima Nikaya, the Middle End Discourses, in English translation mentioned, there are ananda, these 6 roots of disputes. What 6? Here, ananda, a bhikkhu, is engaged in angry and revengeful. 2nd, contemptuous and domineering. 3rd, envious and avaricious. 4th, deceitful and fraudulent. 5th, has evil wishes and wrong view. 6th, adheres to his own views. So holds on to them tenaciously and relinquishes them with difficulty. Such a bhikkhu dwells disrespectful and undifferential towards the teacher, towards the Dhamma, and towards the Sangha. And he does not fulfill the training. A bhikkhu who dwells disrespectful and undeferential towards the teacher, towards the Dhamma, and towards the Sangha, and who does not fulfill the training creates a dispute in the Sangha, which would be for the harm and unhappiness of many, for the loss, harm, and suffering of gods and human. Now, if you see any such root of dispute either in yourself or externally, you should strive to abandon that same evil root of dispute. And if you do not see any such root of dispute either in yourselves or externally, you should practice in such a way that that same evil root of dispute does not erupt in future. Thus, there is the abandoning of that evil root of dispute. Thus, there is the non-eruption of that evil root of dispute in future. These are the 6 roots of dispute. The sutta further mentions 4 kinds of litigations and the way to remove litigations, and the 6 memorable qualities, as in the Kosambiya Sutta is mentioned. Here the Buddha instructs Anandathera, and Anandathera speaks, so the Buddha says, if Ananda, you undertake and maintain these 6 memorable qualities, do you see any course of speech, trivial or gross, that you could not endure? No, Venerable Sir. Therefore, Ananda, undertake and maintain these 6 memorable qualities that will lead to your welfare and happiness for a long time. Now, the Blessed One enumerates the 6 memorable qualities that create love and respect and conduce to helpfulness, to non-dispute, to concord, and to unity. And these 6 memorable qualities in Pali are mentioned as Cha Saraniya Dhamma. So what are these 6 Saraniya Dhamma? Imekho bhikkave Cha Saraniya Dhamma Piyakarana, Garukarana, Sangahaya, Avivadaya, Samogya Eki Bhavaya Samvattanti. Ime Sankho bhikkave Channang Saraniyang Dhammanang Etang Aggang Etang Sangahikang Etang Sangha Yadidang Yayang Ditti Arya Niyanika Niyati Takkarassa Samma Dukkha Khayaya. The cessation of dukkha, lead to the cessation of dukkha. So again, here Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi translates the Cha Saraniya Dhamma as 6 memorable qualities, while Mr. Gil Fronsdal translates these as 6 cordial principles. Here, Saraniya, so Sara can also mean the essence of the Dhamma, which is again enumerated in various places what the essence of Dhamma is, like in the Dhammapada Attakatha, in the Sariputta Theravāda, where it says that Sarancha Saratonyatva, one who knows the essential of the essence, it can reach the essential, that is the Nibbana. So that is how it is also interpreted in the Dhammapada. Now, the Buddha, while admonishing the misguided bhikkhus on the 6 cordial behavior, entails them to reflect on the actions of body, speech, and mind, to see whether these 3 actions of body, speech, and mind are done with loving kindness, metta. The 6 principles of cordiality listed highly valued in the monastic community are maintaining the bodily acts of loving kindness both in public and in private towards fellow monastics, maintaining verbal acts of loving kindness both in public and private towards fellow monastics, maintaining mental acts of loving kindness both in public and in private towards fellow monastics, sharing things with other monastics without reservation, that's the 4th one, including sharing any gains that accord with the Dhamma, that has been attained in a way that accords with the Dhamma. 5th, possessing those virtues both in public and private that are unbroken, unblotched, lead to concentration and liberating mind. And the 6th one is possessing that view is the most important one highlighted over here, that is the noble emancipating, that leads one who practices in accordance with it to the complete destruction of suffering. Ditti Nijjhana Khanti, it is also referred to in the text. So this means that while the Buddha emphasized the importance of loving kindness, he sees the right view leading to liberation as the most important principle for living in harmony with others. Liberation has a social consequence. It creates love and respect. Unquote, Gil Fronsdal on page 3. The former 3 points refer to the 3 bodily, verbal, and mental actions of loving kindness, both in public and private. Sharing in accordance with the Dhamma rules, abiding virtues leading to concentration and cultivating right view leading to the end of suffering are the latter 3 cordial principles conducive to the welfare of monk life. Right view is the pinnacle of the teaching, and that such a teaching is not found anywhere outside in the teachings of other disciplines. So, respected moderator, I have something more to say, but if time permits, I can go ahead.
Just maybe 1 or 2 minutes.
Okay, all right. I'll just conclude in that case. So the conclusion, in this papers, I have also mentioned about the different types of Buddha's disciples, like the Arhanta disciples, like those disciples which are on the path and which have not yet attained to any level of attainment, and also those who just approach the Buddha, who are not even the upasakas of the Buddha, and just approach laypersons for their own problems. And of this, we have the Mahasala Sutta, where a Brahmin approaches the Buddha. He's old, he's a wealthy Brahmin, but he's thrown out of the house by his sons and in fact, inducted by their wives. So when he approaches the Buddha, Buddha provides a solution to him, a worldly solution. And in fact, that's the social norm at that time, which the Buddha takes a support of, like in the assembly where his sons are present, the Buddha gives some 5 verses to recite to the Brahmin, and he does that. And where the sons, they feel that, oh, we are at, they fear that they would be targeted by the law there, and therefore they take him home, and he forgives them. So this forgiveness is also one of the acts of khanti, which we can see here. Now, considering the other aspects like the Arhant monks, we have very strong examples of Sariputta Thera, Mahamoggallana Thera, Punna Thera, and like in the process like Ananda Thera and Aniruddha Thera, and so on, each one of the disciples of the Buddha. However, I would like to conclude with the following. This paper was initiated with an endeavor to take a closer look at the subtle quality of khanti, not highlighted as prominently as like the other virtues in the Pali text. However, we find that most suttas in the Majjhima Nikaya are pertaining to the conditions and the methods to practice khanti, comprising refraining from abandoning the practice of one's good deeds in the face of difficulties and problems, as also refraining from becoming angry and resorting to acts of violence through the practicing of cultivating loving kindness in bodily, verbal, mental actions by developing right view, sammaditthi. The Buddha's teaching of loving kindness is unique and not found in any other teaching. This practice of metta is conducive to the attainment of stage of anagami, a non-returner to the human world, and therefore the final goal of arhantaship. So just with the practice of khanti, which is mentioned in the Karaniya Metta Sutta, nahi jatu gabbhaseyang punaretiti. In our endeavor is to understand the concept of khanti in the Nikayas. When we try to understand in the Nikayas, it seems like the perfections are not so important. As a teacher, the Buddha worked out the teaching method through suttas, discourses, by way of listening, discussion, and meditative practice. Pariyatti, Patipatti, and Pativedan, it became possible for people as like the water lilies that were just beneath the brim could rise above the surface. Khanti is one such practice. In scholastic language, khanti comes frequent in combination with ditti, khanti, ruchi. And in the Matika, the idha means the meaning here, which it says, idhati imassa ditthaya, imassa khantiya, imassa ruchiya. And which leads imasming brahmacharya, imasming sattu sasane tena vucchati. So the Dhammapad verse, khanti paramang tapotitikha, nibbanang paramang vadanti buddha. Khanti is the highest of all austere practices. Nibbana is the supreme, says all the Buddha. With much metta, and thank you for your patient listening.
Thank you very much, Vaishali. Appreciate that. So Vaishali is our last speaker here, and a reminder that Ikai session will be starting in 4 minutes time. So hope to see you there, and a very quick break. Okay, thanks everybody. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. No question.
I wish you could have asked a question.
Yeah, Brian, this. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Can we ask a question?
Okay, please go ahead. Okay, yes.
So there are 2 questions. Firstly, for Vaishali, how would you explain brim can rise above the surface? And for Jamie and Vaishali together, how do you define Śūnyatā according to scientific principles, Jamie? While Vaishali was talking about philosophical, how do you reconcile the two of the void and Śūnyatā?
So, Nalini ji, you want me to?
Yeah, begin with brim can rise above the surface.
No. It's not brim can rise above the surface. It is, it became possible for people as like the water lilies that were just beneath the brim.
Water lily beneath the brim.
Yeah, could rise above the surface. So it's like the Buddha's teaching was such that those people who were just, under the surface of the level of the water.
Water is not up till the brim. Water is not up till the brim of the pond.
No, not of the pond. It's the people, the water lilies that are just below the surface of the water, could rise above the above water. Yeah, and that is also explained in the Mahavagga. Yeah, that the Buddha gave the teaching to these people. These are the ones.
Because in our university, Buddhist university, we have water up till the brim, and I wanted to know the symbolism for that, the explanation for that. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And about Śūnyatā, it's the khanti and Śūnyatā that they are talking about. I have not worked on in this paper. So if you say when I work on it, I can share that with you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
The reason I defined it, that I wasn't so much a scientific, I'm sorry, I have a parrot who's with me and she loves all the voices and the chanting and the music. So excuse me for the noise. But I spent like hours and hours and hours and hours trying to find some sort of an all-encompassing definition of Śūnyatā, but I found it like really difficult. And so, you know, especially within the time frame of these presentations, you know, there's so much more I would have loved to have shown on sound with all the sound of planets. And, you know, there's just so many things. So I just took basically like the Sanskrit definition, you know, and something that's, you know, because you start getting all the philosophies in it. I really had like 10 pages. It's like, you know, it's like, just stick with this. So that's why.
Thank you.
So Nalini ji, what I can say about Śūnyatā, just in a couple of sentences is, as per the readings that I have, you see that how the concept of khanti developed in the Mahayana period, as Mahayana period picked up until the Nagarjuna Śūnyatā that is defined. So it is also the Kshanti Deva, the Shanti Deva's principle of Kshanti. Yeah, that became one of the major practices in the Mahayana period. So that happened. That happened gradually, but the period that it started during the time that Theravāda and Mahayana were together in the Third Council, at that time, I was just trying to look at those things. Yeah, so that's in the future course of my research. Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're not very far from Soka University. We've had professors give us guest talks from there before.
Oh, I see. Okay. So, okay. Hopefully we get to meet and maybe we can discuss about this more.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Maybe next year we can all be there in person, you know?
Yeah,
it's so
sure.
much fun to go in person, isn't it? The music, the people, the camaraderie. But this is good too.
I think we don't have our moderator. I think we got to stop now and go to the next because it's 9:37.
Okay, nice
Thank
meeting
you, everyone.
and thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.